How's it going, everybody? Ateu, son of Enki. Alright, so in the other videos I covered prehistory of the Anunnaki coming here. I covered them kind of creating us and the first of us being created. But now in this video I'm going to cover what humanity actually was to the Anunnaki, what our creation was, not only to them but to other races, including the Shivans and the Shinto. I'm going to use the names that we gave them because I simply don't know the names of their races or if they even gave them names. So the names are the ones we created for them. So the first I want to cover are the ones that I don't really know that much about. About 67,000 years ago, once the creation of humanity had been stabilized and believed perfected, Enki invited other races to come. The Anunnaki control huge amounts of territory. They are far more advanced and far more powerful than anyone could imagine. At this time, at least, they controlled. I don't know. There's a lot of confusing stuff going on that we'll try and cover later. But at this time, Enki created what he believed to be a solution. I mentioned this before, to a lot of racist problems, to the hunger problem of the predatory intelligence. So this is an interesting concept because from my master Enki's point of view, he was so advanced, so incredibly intelligent and old that his intellect surpassed basically any other in the universe, or any other in the galaxy, in this sector at least, by a considerable sum. So to my master, the Shivans and the Shinto and the Gaul, and I can't remember the name of the other few races that came, but he invited them here to use as part of his experiment because he needed more information about how to better perfect the thing, and he believed that he had created something truly incredible. So he wanted to test it out on other races, see if it could be a solution to other races. So first, the Shivans arrived, which is Shiva, Vishnu, all the Indian gods. They are also incredibly powerful, comparably powerful to the Anunnaki. Their technology is at least very interesting. And a little later, the Shinto arrived. Now, the Shinto controlled a massive area, huge area. But the deal my master made with them was that there would only sort of be periodic reports about how the solution was going because the Shinto altered their humans to suit their needs and to suit the environment, and that many of the races Enki gave the thing to, he gave the open lock codes so that these races could alter the beings themselves if they were able to do so. And the Shinto were one of the ones that had the technology available to actually alter the human race to better suit their needs. Now, the civilization on Earth that they created, funnily enough, was in its social structure similar to the Naruto universe. There were great kingdoms of Shinto lords who controlled massive regions and then lower. Now, I don't know a lot about this race because my master simply did not have a lot of contact with them. I was always at his side, so I only went where he went. And after the deal with them, when I basically was just standing on the sidelines, I did not understand the Shinto language at all. It was interesting listening to my master speak a lot of the time because it was like the Star Wars, where you have an alien speaking its alien language, and the human just speaking English, and they both understand each other perfectly well. It was like this. My master would speak to these other races in his own language, and they would speak to him in their language, and they had no trouble understanding each other because it's just how it was. So they created this incredible area that covered China and Japan, further south down to the edge of Lanka, and further north up to the edge of the superglacier and the mountainous region that blocked from habitation going any further. But that was their lands. Now another group that came that I do know a lot more about are the Shivans. I call them the Shivans because that literally is the only name I have for them. I don't know what their race was called. The greatest of them, and the one I know the most about, is Shiva, because him and my master actually spoke many times. He is a very interesting being. I believe he's known as the god of destruction, funnily enough. But that was only because so often when the humans witnessed his behavior firsthand, he was defending against an attack. Because something else that was very interesting about these groups on Earth that Enki invited, right? They didn't exactly get along. Now, I never had a lot of contact with Enlil. Enki and his brother, in the time on Earth, Enlil spent most of his time up in his ship, ruling from on high, and Enki spent his time on Earth with his creations, as well as half the other Anu. Like there were two halves. So the Shivans and the Anuan were like gang members in our understanding. I realize that sounds insane, but because they were predatory, and part of the creation of humanity was to use us as a substitute for their predatory need to attack one another, to defend their territory. And they found within their culture, I call the term Borkria in my book, but it's basically a predatory intelligence, regardless of how advanced, still needs the feeling of the chase, of the capture, of the bite and the claw. It is just an evolved part of their nature. And this is what Enki was trying to use humanity to solve. Because if the Anun and the Shivans and the Shinto and the other races that came didn't need to hunt and kill other civilizations to survive, or propagate these already developing civilizations in special ways to eat, they could create this long-term solution to prevent the death of each other, prevent the loss of their infrastructure, the loss of basically the planets, because advanced predatory intelligences within their early evolution have a bad habit of just eating everything. They get to a certain level of advancement, realize they can use tools to better enhance their hunting ability, and they just kill everything. They just kill everything. They can't help it. So they learn that destruction and the consummation of everything is too much. It's unsustainable. And this is what Enki had solved, he believed he had solved with the creation of us, with humanity. He believed that we could not only be their food, we could also be happy about it, which a lot of us were completely happy to be the flesh of our gods. And we just reiterate and come back anyway, so we don't care if we freaking die. We're a cool life form, man. Anyway, so they would pit us against each other. They'd create ships, they'd train soldiers, each side, and then they'd send them to attack the other human cities and watch all the humans freak out. And then the gods themselves, in many cases, would often be forced to, if they got the shits, be forced to get rid of the ship themselves. Now, this happened a time when Shiva, there's a great story, I believe, in the Mahabharata of Shiva's city. And he's just chilling with his humans because he loved his humans. This was cool about Shiva and Vishnu, and a lot of the Shivans, they had the ability to feel a sort of representation of love. So when we loved them, man, they wanted to walk around with us. They had them hanging off it. They really got into us. Shiva especially, he thought we were cool as fuck. So when this Anun ship of like soldier humans, little friggin' weapons shooting down to the city, Shiv was just like, he did not have the patience for this day. He's just reached back, grabbed his bow, and just gone budos and shot this thing out of the sky. Didn't totally destroy it, but caused enough damage for it to turn around and shimmy off. Now, this was one of the acts that the humans actually witnessed, one of the very, very few times any of the advanced races on the planet used their technology, their true technology in front of us. Because they created technologies to use in front of us so that, like things that look like magic, so that we thought they were gods. Enki created this fantastic, like Tesla-style energy system where their tech would absorb energy remotely, like without a cordless energy into these devices. So they didn't really need to be that complex. And then they'd hit it and fire would come out of it, lightning would shoot out of it, or it just glows super bright, or start making crazy noises, or all manner of insane shit, just to scare the fuck out of the humans and make us all think, oh my God, you're God, oh, we better worship some more so we don't get eaten right now because we're actually having fun and want to keep going a little bit longer. So this was how it was. They would also have great contests. This was the story I told of my master being quite boastful, because the Shivans, the Shinto, the Gaul, a couple of the other guys, they would alter their own beings to create like these warriors to these awesome, super strong like warriors. It's kind of like a Dragon Ball Z episode. It's nuts. Well, some of the crazy shit that I had to stand in this ring where it was just the worst was the Gaul, because they were insectoid, like an insectoid lizardy kind of mixed thing, but they had these real hard exoskeletons with spines and shit. So a lot of the stuff they created had these spines and these exoskeletons, and although if you shattered a piece of the exoskeleton in the right spot, the thing was pretty much done. But dude, trying to do that was insane. Trying to get past the claws, and quite often one of their fingers would be this big old blade. And my master's up there boasting about how great his creation is in relation to anything else anyone else can make. Except like his creation is the one that has to actually do all the stuff, which obviously you don't get to complain about because you're a creation. Which just to be clear, everyone who watches this, we are still, right now, exactly as we were created to be. It's just we're not useful enough. I'll cover all that later. But the reason for humanity's creation was to try and solve a problem that had existed for billions, 4+ billion years in this sector, that was dangerous. Some of the conflicts that happened between the predatory intelligences in this sector were extreme. Entire planets, entire systems were destroyed because of hunger, because of the desperation to eat. Think of what a human will do when they are starving. For any aware and intelligent person who has ever worked in the law enforcement, think of what groups of children will do when they are hungry and left alone. If any of you law enforcement guys have ever come across a group of feral children, I don't mean to use that term, but I quite literally mean feral, where they have been forced to survive on their own, they are incredibly dangerous. They have no fear. They will lash out at just about anything, and even trying to communicate that you're not a danger is in some cases almost impossible. They have to be captured and locked away and then fed so that they come back to reality to realize, I'm not in danger and this is another person. It is crazy. That's a human. Now think of what polar bears and grizzly bears do when they are starving. They go into towns, tear down walls, break into people's cars, bust into their homes. Now imagine these beings are spacefaring. They suffer the same problems, just on a much, much grander scale. So, man, you have to eat. And the way intelligence rollover values works within our universe is that you need to eat the same level of complexity as you are. This is why the animals on our planet, for anyone who is actually smart enough to realize it, are as smart as we are. The birds, many of the fish, the dolphins, the whales, your dog, if they're allowed to be, they are comparable in intelligence, intuitively especially, as we are. And many animals far more intuitive than we are. Yeah, we somehow think we're superior. What? Because we can't talk to them? You think talking is such an impressive thing? It's really not. It's not even a good way to communicate, because while you're talking, you can't listen. Humanity was made to feed this impossible hunger, this impossible problem. We were designed specifically to stop the fighting, to stop it forevermore, so that these hyper-advanced predatory intelligences, which had gotten to a point and stagnated because they started to realize you can't advance too far because everything you're eating has to advance with you. And it's bad to be eating you need a substitute. You need an artificial food supply that is made to be okay with serving and being eaten, and created in a way that the spirit, intelligence, the souls, the consciousness that makes up each of the individuals isn't lost when they die. See, the Anunnaki, the Shivans, and the Shinto, they're not like us. When they die, they die. They don't reiterate like we do. They used to be able to when they had a planet, but you can only reiterate when you have a transient network to reiterate into. You can't carry a planet's worth of life around on a spaceship. It doesn't work like that. You need the whole damn planet. And this is one of the biggest problems, because the advanced cultures couldn't live on the planets. They needed the planets to propagate their food. So they became, and half the time, you walk down onto the planet where your food's propagated and everything freaks out because they don't know what you are. To them, you're just this predatory danger, and it just was not a sustainable thing, because all these cultures that you're trying to propagate up to be able to be advanced enough to eat get to a point where they're advanced enough to stop wanting to be eaten. It is a problem. So the universe cannot evolve a solution on its own. It didn't. It isn't advanced enough yet. The universe and all the life within it is only as advanced as the universe is advanced. The universe expands and grows and gets smarter and bigger and smarter and bigger and smarter and bigger. Right now, all the predatory and the prey intelligences reached the highest level they could reach. They got there. They got to the peak. You all think leaving the universe is the peak? You're idiots. We live here. This is our home. Why would you ever want to leave? How dumb is that concept to want to leave? Who wants to leave? This is where you were created. This is where you exist. This is where you have always existed and where you will always exist. Why would you want to leave? What kind of insanity is that? No one ever wants to leave, just to be clear. Things don't. Also, guys, life and machines are not interchangeable, okay? The Anunnaki made biological bodies to transfer themselves into, because biology is biology. They didn't make themselves robot bodies because you can't turn life into a robot. It doesn't work like that. It just does not work. So these poor cultures, they just could not sustain themselves anymore, and the universe was not going to provide them a solution. So they had to come up with one on their own. They had to create something that exists outside of universal law. They had to make an entity that bridged both prey and predator, something that understood the value of what it was. We were created to understand how valuable it is for us to advance with them so that we can be eaten. Yes, that sounds insane. And yes, this is going to be a much longer video, but this is what we were made to be. I realize everybody's self-importance makes you think you're individual and you're separated, but you are not. You are part of a superorganism. The world, you, everything now, we are part of a singular superorganism where just each life is this little thread that just moves and then goes back, or is supposed to go back. Most of you are destroying yourselves, which isn't very helpful at all. I will end this video here because the next one I'll make right now. I'm just going to stop this and I'm going to make the next one. I'm going to explain how we got to the uprising. The actual truth. Full, never told, because I haven't been here to tell it. All right.